Hello, welcome to Irresistible. You ignite your passion and purpose. I'm Karen Seltz. I'm your host. If you are new to me, there are three things that I'd like you to know. The first one is I want you to know that where you are right now at this very moment on your journey is just a single point. It is one point. It is not your final destination. And the reason I know that is because I have overcome addiction, depression, low self esteem, no self confidence, and really a lack of will to live. And now I am passionate about serving people, about getting up, about who I get to be, and how I get to create a ripple effect of love in the world. And I never would have thought that was possible just 10 years ago. So wherever you are, just know I've probably been there and now I am here most of the time. The second thing is that I want you to feel like you've known me your entire life and that you are safe to tell me absolutely anything. And know that I will not judge you, that I have such a huge capacity to love. I practice every single day opening my heart and feeling love and gratitude. And I'm able to extend that to pretty much everybody I meet. The people closer to me are the hardest, to be honest. Let's just be honest here. And the third thing is that I consider my greatest superpower to be that of a divine mirror. And what I mean by that is I am able to see people as God sees them, as the divine sees them, and to reflect back the truth of who they are, the truth of their gifts and what they're here for until they finally get it for themselves and they're like, okay, I got it. So if you are ever looking for somebody to reflect back your greatness, I'm your girl. I swear. So, in this episode, I would love to discuss, are you tired of holding yourself back? Ugh, this has been a theme for so many of my clients, and it's no surprise because it was a theme of my life, and it still keeps coming up. I keep finding those edges like, oh, I see where I didn't go as far as I could. And I just had a conversation with one of my dear friends about she was doing a healing session and she said, no, I know there's more. I know there's more. And she just went at this healing session with everything she had, knowing that the universe would support her. She's not going to run out of energy. It's not like you can have too much love or too much kindness, too much generosity. It's like when you start playing with those positive emotions, and if you ever look at the emotional guidance scale popularized by Esther Hicks, you'll see that the higher elevation, like the higher frequency emotions like love and enlightenment and generosity and gratitude, they vibrate much quicker. And Dr. Joe Dispenza explains this brilliantly. Like we are matter, we think we're solid, and matter vibrates so slowly. It's the slowest form. And as you get into those thoughts and those emotions that vibrate really quickly, they become almost a straight line eventually because they're vibrating so fast that there is no separation between those emotions or who you become when you're feeling them and God or source. Like you are one with source. And until you actually get there, you're touching God, God, God. When you're down here, you're like, okay, God, God, you know. And and so when you can start thinking thoughts that are going to lead to those feelings, those emotions that are higher vibrating frequencies. So look up the emotional guidance scale and you want to get above contentment, right? You want to get to inspiration, to generosity, to compassion, to love, to enlightenment, to oneness, unity. There are so many that are so juicy and delicious that just setting your target as that, like today, I choose to be loving. I choose to look for evidence that the world is a loving and kind place. And it's so fascinating to me. When you start to practice these, you will start to see. When you tell your subconscious mind, okay, look for ways, show me ways that the universe is kind. You're going to notice people letting you in line or people paying for your stuff. I mean, it's crazy what you'll notice happening. And it's because you're looking for it and you're open to it. So anyway, so I was talking to my friend about, the energy coming through, and it reminded me of, I heard a talk in person by Jesse Itzler. If you don't know who he is, look him up. He's a phenomenal human being. He's so loving and generous, and he's extreme. He does extreme endurance events, like, I don't even know, like 100-mile races and 10-day things. I mean, they're crazy. He went studied with Wim Hof and did like the ice challenges and all that good stuff too. So he's an incredible human. He's also a billionaire, and he's also married to Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. But one thing I learned from him, I did an endurance challenge with him many years ago, and there were only 60 of us, and we got one-on-one coaching with this guy. Well, it was group coaching, but I got there early, so there was no one else on the call, and he would always get there early, so I always got to talk to him. But one of the things he shared at the first time I ever heard him speak was, when you look at the statistics of people who begin a marathon in New York or Boston, the percentage of people that finish, and this is 26.2 miles, is in the high 90s, like 97 and 98%, something like that. He's like, why is that when every single one of them reports hitting the proverbial wall at mile 19 or 20? He's like, yet 98 or 99% or 97 or 98% of people finish. He said, that is because your safety mechanisms, your ego mind, the body kicks in and says, you are done. You cannot make it another step. And when that happens, do you know how much is left in your reserve tank? This blew my mind. I cannot believe it. 40%. When you feel like you cannot go on, you've only exhausted 60% of your resources. You still have 40% left in your tank. And I was so happy to be reminded of this, because I just did a challenge and I created all kinds of content and all these pieces and video, like tons of videos. And it was a ton of work. And I was feeling very depleted after that, and like I deserved a rest. And so I took one, which I believe in listening to your body. But there was this part of me that was like, okay, I'm going to do this challenge again. And I get to find that reserve. I get to realize that even if I feel depleted, there's still 40% left. And there's also this part of us that is so conditioned, and it wants us to stay safe. And anything safe to it is what we've experienced before. So I've talked about this before, but it's, my business coach was just talking about this yesterday, the convenient excuses, or I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something about convenience, where you believe your lies, the lies of the worthy opponent. And the worthy opponent is the ego. And it's almost as smart as you, but not quite. So part of our job as human beings to evolve, to learn, and to grow is to push past those voices and to notice. And one of the things Dr. Joe says is to become aware of the thoughts that you no longer want to think. So the second they come up, you're like, oh, I see you. I see you. And what do you no longer want to feel? What do you no longer want to do? And you become aware of them so that they don't go unnoticed anymore, because we are unconscious to them. We just believe them. And right in the middle of the word belief is the word lie, L-I-E. And when you start saying, oh yeah, you're right, I might as well not do this. No one's going to watch this video anyways. Or if I write an email to my list, no one's going to read it anyway. Or what difference will it make? Whatever is the excuse, we hear them and we believe them, and we don't do anything outside of our comfort zones in general. So if I'm talking to you, you know it, and it stings. I get it. And I love this concept from A Course in Miracles. Choose again. Like when you notice those things, you're already primed. Okay, then what do you want? What do you want to think? How does greatness think? How does whoever you're choosing to be, like what's your next level? How does that person think? What does she do? How does she feel? What happens when she walks into a room? How do people respond to her? How does she respond to problems? Does she throw in the towel? Does she get angry? Does she get manipulative or snippy? Or is she calm? Is she like breathe in and say, I don't need to figure this out. I get to tap in and trust that I will be given the answer and that everything always works out for me, always. And if you look at your past, you have evidence of that. But we are wired for survival. We're wired to look for problems and threats, what could go wrong, and to notice what went wrong in the past so that we don't repeat it. So if anything reminds us of any of those past events where things didn't quite go as we had hoped, then we're looking for them. But what if we just were aware of them and we're like, oh, interesting, I see this. And if I respond the same way, I will indeed create the same result. What would I rather experience? What do I want instead? Who do I choose to be right now? And it, I know it sounds ridiculous, but action creates clarity. And I tell you, my business coach, James Wedmore, just posted something about this recently. I'm like, I finally get it. I've been with him over a year and I went way out of my comfort zone with this last challenge I did. And I got so much clarity on what worked, what didn't work, what my ideal client really truly struggles with, what messaging works for them, what they're really looking for. I mean, I was able to tweak my program to fit their needs instead of like trying to fit them into my program. So without me taking any action, and it was messy and it was imperfect. And, I squeezed a lot in a short period of time because that's all the time I had. I had some dental issues and didn't get the long runway. We call it a launch runway, like the time leading up to the launch. But I did it. I did it messy and I adapted as I went. Every day I'm like, what worked? What didn't work? What could I add to make it better for them? What could I add that would give them a better transformation? So I started adding things and I really trusted. I really trusted myself and my connection to God. And my attitude was so delightful. I mean, it was so different than any time in the past because instead of looking at all the things that didn't work as failures, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy I see this now because I get to change it for my next launch. And I get to play with, okay, what did work? I get to expand that and I get to try out some new things. Let's see if this works. I mean, like a scientist looking at data instead of making it personal, making it mean something. So the reason I'm telling you all this is because it seemingly happened in an instant where that shift happened, where I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it messy. I made the decision. And yes, I had goals and I'm like, I didn't hit them. So I'm doing it again. Like, so what? Like, one thing that I've learned is if we put a timeline on our goals, it adds stress to our system. And the universe doesn't respond to stress, nor does our body. It doesn't do us any good. So what? Like, what else are you doing? Right? Like, just try something else. Look at it like data. Like, the biggest mistake many of us make as entrepreneurs or even as humans is being attached to our results and making them mean something about us. We let them tell a story about who we are, our worthiness, what we deserve. And that's just crap. It's just data. It's neutral. And it's like, if you look at it from a scientist perspective, like from the outside, and you're unattached, you're like, okay, what worked? What didn't work? Put on your glasses to get out your calculator. Like, okay, I see that this didn't work. I see this didn't work. And allow the data to tell the story without it meaning anything about you because you're always free to choose again. So our nervous system, our subconscious mind, our ego mind is designed to keep us safe. And remember what I said at the beginning, like it's always scanning the environment. And the more trauma or difficult events you've experienced in your life, the more bits of information it has to grab onto. Like if you had a car accident and it was snowing that day, every time it snows, you might be like afraid to drive. or afraid to go outside, or just have that feeling like, oh, something bad's going to happen. I know it. Well, that is your subconscious mind remembering an event that happened many years ago. And the purpose of an emotion is to call for an action. And here's where it gets interesting. It wants you to take an action on an event that took place many years ago or sometime in the past, but you can't, right? So you get stuck in this loop. So just becoming aware of the present moment and saying, like, in this very moment, I am safe. And maybe call attention to your left big toe. It's always there, but you never pay attention to it, right? Until someone says, pay attention to your left big toe. And then just feel it and say, in this moment, I am one with my left big toe, or I am focused on my left big toe, and we are safe. I am safe. In this moment, I am safe. The moment you do a pattern interrupt on those cycles and you come back, or you can look at objects in the room, like just identify, okay, there's a window. Out my window, I see a tree, I see a trampoline, I see a bedpost, I see a roof of a house, like whatever it is. Something in the room, I see my water bottle. That brings you back to the present moment. The more you do that, the more it breaks that pattern. It's a pattern interrupt. And when you do that, the brain's like, I can let go of that. I'm safe. In this moment, there's nothing for me to do. It's over with. In this moment, I am safe. Breathe into it, because you are safe. Most likely, if you're watching this video, you are safe. Nobody's letting your house on fire. You're safe. So think about that and use those grounding techniques. You can identify a part of your body, like something random, like my right nostril. I don't know. It could be anything, any part of your body, or you can touch like an anchor, like your thumb and your forefinger, like, in this moment, I'm safe. So anytime you feel safe or loved or any elevated emotions, choose an anchor, and it's physical on your body. It could be this or this or this, or touching your thigh, or I don't know, it could be anything. Just pick something on your body and touch it and anchor that feeling and say, this means love. This means safety. This means whatever. And every time you feel that emotion, that elevated emotion, anchor it. And then when you feel a lower emotion or you feel anxiety, just go back to this. It's like, okay, in this moment, I'm loved. I'm loving. I'm lovable forever. Whatever helps you, like pick a mantra, I am safe, and say it, and then attach it to that anchor. And you can use it whenever you don't feel safe. And it will remind your body and your subconscious mind, which they are really one. Subconscious mind and the body are like interconnected. The ego, it's all in there. It will remind it of that time when you were safe. And it'll be like, oh. And if you just say to yourself, that event is over. In this moment, I am safe. So when you think about doing the scary thing, the thing that you really want to do, that you've been holding yourself back from, what comes up? Like, allow it to be there. Like, okay, I'm scared. Okay, what are you afraid of? Just talk to yourself. That doesn't mean you're crazy. It means you're evolving. Okay, I'm afraid that I'm going to look stupid. It's going to remind me of when I did that book report in 3rd grade and everybody laughed at me. Okay, it's all right. I got you. So what if you look stupid? What does that mean about you? I mean, just talk. Well, that would mean that I'm unworthy. Really? Is that really possible? Is it possible for you to be unworthy? Is it possible that God created only one piece of crap and that's you? Well, no, of course not. You can break out the Byron Katie questions and really just start questioning it, because the ego does not question itself. It doesn't. So the moment you start questioning that, you're going to be able to poke holes in it and you're going to be like, this is so silly. What I'm really afraid of is whatever it is, what you're really afraid of. And then you can say, okay, say you're on video and you really want to serve, you really want to share your message. When you think about one person, just one person that could really use what you have to say. And maybe somebody's like on the verge of committing suicide and they hear your story or they hear your message and like, oh my gosh, well, if she can come back from that, I can. Maybe you save a life. Maybe you transform a life. Maybe somebody is happier. I mean, it doesn't have to be that major life and death, but maybe you give somebody an idea that leads them toward their passion, their career, whatever it is. Who's one person you can serve? What's your intention in serving that one person? What do you want to share with them? What part of yourself are you willing to share to uplift another person? And when you can do this, it takes practice. It's a skill. When you start focusing out, guess where you're not focusing? In. And guess what happens when you don't focus in? You're not nervous anymore. It's a beautiful thing. It's so beautiful. And that's what people call getting out of your own way. And that's what it means. But it's a practice. It's not some fluffy saying. It's you practice focusing out and you serve. And I'm going to tell one more story. I know we're running out of time. When I've been in a like sad mood, or I'm like just beating myself up or something, and I'm like, gosh, I can't get out of this funk. One thing is move the body. Move the body if that happens. That helps. Another thing that has helped me every single time to get past that is to just say, okay, for 5 minutes, I'm just going to forget about this. I'm going to put it aside. I can come back to it as soon as I'm finished with this. And I drop it in my heart and I'm like, who could really use a phone call from me right now? Who could use a kind word, or somebody thinking of them, or somebody like offering a shoulder or an ear? And somebody will always drop into my heart and my mind. And I pick up the phone and say, hey, you really were just strong on my heart and my mind. And I felt, like I really wanted to reach out to you. Is everything okay? How are you doing? And every single time they're going through something, they're like, oh, I was just praying for someone to call me, or I was praying for an answer and you called. I cannot believe it. And when I'm able to serve someone and be there for someone else and forget all my own crap, and all this my own crap, I fabricated. Like, just get that. Like, I made something mean something about me that wasn't true to begin with. So when I can focus out, that gets me in alignment with truth, which is with God, which is with our divine selves and with who we really are. So when I'm in tune with that and I serve somebody else, they rise, I rise. I mean, that stuff is like, I'm like, I can't believe I was worried about that. It's such a lie. It's so ridiculous, but it seemed 100% true before I called somebody. So try it. I know it doesn't sound like it would work, but it's worked for me every single time. And then I can serve, and then I can say, I can talk about it, right? Or I can go do a video and like tell people, try this, it works. I mean, you guys suffered from clinical depression for so many years. I didn't feel like I wanted to live. I didn't feel like I deserved to live. I didn't feel like I was worthy of God's love. And now I'm like in love with myself. I mean, I still laugh at myself because I do stupid things all the time. But I'm not like, oh, Karen, you're an idiot. I don't do that. I'm like, oh, Karen, you're adorable. Look at what you did. You're so committed to your awakening. You're like hilarious. And I find this stuff funny and cute and adorable now, instead of like things I want to hide, or, pull the covers over my head, or not show anybody those parts. Now I talk about them. I laugh about them. And it's shining that light on there and being willing to focus out. So try it. Just try it. And you'd be amazed. And let me know how it goes. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe. That sounded great. It's one of those times, right? And share it with a friend. If you have a friend that's hurting or could use, some inspiration today, please share this. And I would love to hear your comments. Try this stuff out. Don't just listen. I love Dr. Joe Dispenza says all the time, it is not enough to know. It is the time in history to know how. And you know how. I just told you how. Are you willing to do it? You must take action if you want anything to be different. You can't just think about it. You must do something different. You must get out of your comfort zone. You must stretch and grow and be willing to be uncomfortable. If you want a great life, if you want the life you dream of, you must be willing to get uncomfortable and do something different. And I tell you, it is so worth it on the other side. You're going to be so proud of yourself and you are going to be in love with life. Don't you want that? Try it. All right. I'll see you next week.